The stillness. Imagine you're sitting by the campfire after a long day of gathering, the fire is crackling, and the tribe is sharing a gourd of fermented fruit juice. But tonight, there is a gap in the circle. Someone who was laughing with you yesterday is now perfectly still. In the animal kingdom, when a member of the pack dies, the reaction is usually simple: you leave. To a wolf or a lion, a lifeless body is a liability, it's a beacon for predators and a source of disease. But you? You don't walk away. You stop. You look at the person who shared your neatly stitched leather gear and your stories, and you decide to do something radical. You decide to put them in the ground. Today, we're exploring the science and behavior behind the ultimate human ritual. We're diving into why we became the only species on Earth to intentionally hide our dead. It wasn't just about religion, and it wasn't just about grief. It was a high-stakes survival strategy that changed the way our brains work forever. The predator beacon. To understand the real reason, we first have to look at the cold, hard reality of the savannah. As we've seen in our look at how ancient humans traveled the world, you were constantly on the move. But a body is heavy, and it's dangerous. A body left in the open is a dinner bell for the massive predators of the Paleolithic. Hyenas, big cats, and vultures would be drawn to your camp within hours. If you stayed near the deceased, you were putting the entire tribe, especially the babies and the sick, at risk. In a world where getting sick was often a death sentence, a decomposing body was a biological landmine. You knew, instinctively, that the smell of death brought danger. But instead of just moving the camp, you chose to move the earth. By burying the body, you were performing the world's first act of sanitary engineering. You were masking the scent to protect the living. The expensive tissue of grief. But why not just throw the body in a river or leave it for the scavengers miles away? The answer lies in your massive human brain. As we saw in the deep freeze episode, our brains are expensive tissue that requires huge amounts of energy to maintain. That energy gave us the power of abstract thought. For the first time, a creature on Earth could look at a body and see not just meat, but a person. This is where empathy becomes a survival tool. Because your tribe functioned as a social shield, you were biologically wired to care for one another. Leaving a friend behind felt wrong because your brain treated the tribe as an extension of your own body. Burying them was a way to close the loop of that social bond. The 60,000-year-old flower here is a weird historical detail that changes everything we thought about our brutish ancestors. In the Shanidar cave in Iraq, archaeologists found a Neanderthal buried with something unexpected: pollen. This individual wasn't just thrown into a hole. They were laid on a bed of colorful wildflowers, yarrow, cornflowers, and hollyhocks. This suggests that even before Homo sapiens dominated the globe, humans were already using symbolic language. This is the IKEA effect of mourning. Because you invested so much effort into the burial, gathering flowers, digging the pit with stone tools, and using ropes to lower the body, you valued the memory of that person even more. Burial turned a tragic loss into a shared cultural milestone. Tools for the beyond. As the practice evolved, you started putting stuff in the graves. We find ancient burials filled with flint blades, ivory beads, and even the vulture bone flutes we talked about in the fun episode. Why waste a perfectly good tool on someone who can't use it? It was a social signal. By burying a hunter with their spear or a tailor with their bone needle, you were signaling to the rest of the tribe that this person's identity mattered. It was also a way to manage the nightmare of grief. If you believed that your loved one might need those tools in another world, the pain of their absence became easier to bear. You were inventing the first concepts of the afterlife as a way to keep the tribe's morale high in a world where life was short and brutal. Ghosts and segmented sleep. The ritual didn't end once the dirt was piled up. In our report on segmented sleep, we discussed how ancient humans woke up in the middle of the night for a nocturnal interval. During this second sleep gap, the silence of the night made the memory of the dead feel incredibly close. This is likely when the first stories of ghosts and ancestors were born. By the glow of the campfire, you talked about those you had buried, turning them into guardians of the tribe. This behavior turned the grave site into a permanent hub. Instead of just wandering aimlessly, tribes began to return to the places where their ancestors were buried. These graves became the world's first landmarks, anchoring nomadic people to the land and eventually leading to the birth of the first permanent settlements. The anchor of humanity today, we have high-tech cemeteries and digital memorials, but the core reason we bury our dead hasn't changed in 100,000 years. We don't do it just because it's clean, and we don't do it just because it's tradition. We do it because it's what makes us human. We are the only species that refuses to let death be the end of the story. We use the earth to protect our memories, just as we once used neat stitches to protect our bodies from the cold. The next time you see a headstone or a memorial, remember, you're looking at a survival strategy that kept our ancestors safe from predators, bonded our tribes together, and gave us the emotional strength to conquer the world. You are the descendant of the people who cared enough to dig. And that is the real reason you are history.